People think of sustainability as an exclusively modern thing. But is it really? A common mistake we all make is to assume that we, from modern society, are the enlightened ones. We understand things. We know what's going on much more than societies of the past. After all, human knowledge is always evolving, and we, right now, are the culmination of all that knowledge. Certainly, we know better than those outdated, primitive savages from the past, right? Along with that, we're also incredibly pretentious enough to believe that our problems are unique and new, that we are the very first humans dealing with those specific problems, such as traffic jams, for example. They were never a problem in medieval times, right? Well, you'd be surprised. After all, do you really think that we only started to recently deal with air pollution or Wi-Fi repeaters suddenly going out of sync? Okay, maybe the last one is actually an exclusive problem of the 21st century. But the interesting thing about problems is, whatever it is that you're facing, it's very likely that someone somewhere in the past has faced the exact same thing, or something incredibly similar at least. Not only that, it's also highly probable that the entire problem, experiments, and possible solutions were documented and shared. After all, sharing stories, particularly when we succeed, is something that we as humans just can't resist. And by the way, that's the case with the current environmental challenges that we're facing as a civilization. We tend to think of the Industrial Revolution and the invention of the 3-liter V6 turbocharged engine as the villains who were so bad for the environment that humanity finally woke up and realized they should care more about nature. But believe it or not, it's not the first time society thought it was facing collapse due to environmental degradation. We're also not the first to cause it or notice it. We're not even the first ones to do something about it. Destroying nature and realizing that wasn't a very good idea is the oldest story we know. I mean, literally, it is in the oldest literary document known to mankind, the Epic of Gilgamesh. The story explores very complex themes such as ambition, greed, the desire for immortality, and the prosperity of humanity at the expense of nature. In the poem, Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk, is punished by the gods for destroying a forest in search for glory and fame. I think I heard that one before. For turning the legendary cedar forest into a wasteland, the gods sent a flood lasting 6 days and 6 nights that flattened the land. Now, I can't help but think that these older civilizations were actually onto something. They call it the gods, we call it science, they call it flood, and we call it the sea rising due to glaciers melting. Seems like fear of water paired with environmental guilt, it's kind of a repeating motive and part of the human DNA. But if 4,000 years ago is too long ago for you, let's take a look at a more recent example. About 300 to 400 years ago. In the 1500s, while Europe was super busy sailing to America, Japan was a very violent place with constant social upheavals and civil wars breaking out everywhere. Because of that, incredibly large amounts of wood were necessary to keep up with military demand. That demand, however, did not slow down with the peace established by the Tokugawa shogunate in the 1600s. Quite the opposite, actually. Peaceful times brought incredible development, city growth, and a remarkable population boom. Japan's population grew from 10 million people in 1570 to nearly 30 million people in 1670. The demand for wood was growing rapidly. So they were out of a very resource-intensive century because of all the wars, and the demand was still growing super fast, and Japan's forests were disappearing even faster. By that time, basically all old-growth forests, with the exception of Hokkaido, had been completely devastated by the logging industry. Now, it's important to mention that wood was absolutely essential for Japan's economy at the time. It wasn't just the main building material for temples, castles, housing, tools, and weapons. It was also the main fuel source used by the country. Now, that is a very interesting point. They are facing environmental issues because of their main fuel source. I think I heard that story before. The depletion of the forests would represent a catastrophic economic impact to all sectors of Japanese society. A big part of the population, which made a living from extracting and selling timber, literally had no trees to cut anymore. The rulers and builders could not find wood to build homes. There were also direct physical consequences to this. With no trees to support the local geography, soil erosion, floods, landslides, and barren lands were becoming increasingly common. Remember that I said that the interesting thing about problems is that whatever is the problem we're facing, it's very likely that someone somewhere in the past has faced the exact same thing or something incredibly similar at least. Well, the specific actions that Japan took after this are, of course, specific to Japan. But what's interesting to us is the fundamentals behind those specific solutions. That's where the real learning opportunity is. What made Japan overcome this crisis wasn't one specific action taken by the rulers, for example, banning all wood products. That would simply not work. The solution was actually a series of different actions and incentives that focused on helping nature heal, flourish, and prosper, while also assisting communities and the overall Japanese society to develop. The demand for wood still existed, but there was no culture of planting or taking care of forests. So for the first time, villagers started cooperating on planting and managing forests. Mind you, that was never done before, so basically this is where forestry was born. The solution for Japan was a combination of key catalytic actions combined with reinforcing virtual circles, community collaboration, outside stimulation and facilitation, letting nature and social processes do the work. This is the first episode of the series The Past of Sustainability, a podcast series which we look back into the past and find out about really interesting ideas that can help us make nature flourish and prosper today. Thank you for joining us today. The Green Earth Podcast is a Green Earth initiative. Green Earth is a large-scale, nature-based project developer, and our goal is to help nature flourish and prosper. If you want to read more about our projects, please check our website, green.earth. The link is also in the description. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider leaving us a review. And if you know anyone that might benefit from this content, we'd greatly appreciate your recommendation. I'm Pedro Zimmer, your host, and I hope to see you for the next episode of the Green Earth Podcast.